So we had to correct that little technical difficulty for you. But UK here, Nick Richards at the tip. Going to see if Nick Richards can assert his dominance as one of the better players in the SEC, let alone in the country.
A&M home court, nice.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Well, I think at this point we're just going to go with it.
Yeah, we're going with it.
We're going with it.
They moved it to wherever the heck Prairie View A&M is because of concerns over
Absolutely.
Coronavirus. I don't
Absolutely.
want anybody to go to the game.
We're, at this point, it's whatever. We're going to go with it.
A quick steal there from IQ.
IQ out to Nick Richards. That's what we want to see. I'm sorry. I got to be neutral. Not neutral, site neutral, but you get the point. Smith out at the top of the key. Shungu. Ben Shungu's been a guy that's been pretty good for Vermont this year, but it's usually very injury prone. So it's been hard for him to maintain any consistency down the stretch. Out to the shot clock. Duncan with the pull-up. Air ball. Air ball. Air ball. HP, is there any certain player for UK that you think is going to be the X factor for them in this matchup, even if it is a 4-13?
Well, I'm glad that I can identify who the players now because they're in the correct jersey.
Yes. At Prairie View.
X factor, I think I'll go to EJ just because him and Anthony Lamb will have a matchup between two basketball players. One happens to be the other team's best player, and the other is probably number 5 out of 5 in terms of the UK starters. So if there is a matchup that Vermont could maybe take advantage of, that could be it. But I think overall, the best thing for UK at least is just going to be continuing to try and exploit the matchups at guard. I would think they'd go to Emmanuel quickly a lot early on in the game.
And EJ with the dunk.
That's EJ this time.
EJ. Actually, whoever did EJ's design is dead on. That's pretty convincing if you ask me. Unfortunately, well, I won't say unfortunately because he was an asset this year, but Johnny Jazang's still going to be on Kentucky in this. Johnny wouldn't have transferred out until after the year. Ashton Hagens will also be back. And Ashton with the layup right there puts the Cats up 6-0. That's the start we want to see. Yeah, unfortunately, news is that Johnny Jazang will either be transferring to USC or Gonzaga at the end of the year.
Ooh, that'd be Gonzaga. I like that move.
The only issue
Gonzaga and USC.
Great defense by EJ. The only issue I can see with that is the main reason that he's transferring out is because he wanted a guaranteed spot in the lineup next year. And Gonzaga is a team that you could argue with their depth could be the number 1 team in the country next year. So for me, it's a move closer to home, but it's more of a lateral move, and you could argue it's sort of a down move for Jazang if he's looking for playing time, considering Gonzaga is a top 3 consensus pick for next year. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands. Whoever gets him gets a heck of a player and a heck of a sharpshooter. But until then, we're going to have to, just wait and tell. Tyrese misses the jumper there. Duncan out the top, guard by Nick Richards. We'll see if Vermont utilizes this matchup. Key for Vermont.
What's your pick for this game? I know before the technical difficulty, I went with UK by 15. What do you have? 75-60 Cats in this game.
I'll go. The and one foul on Emmanuel quickly. I will go UK by. Let's go 18. We'll go UK by 18 here. And I mean, this is a game. UK is a team that, like, if we're just talking like realistically, not even talking about this simulation, they're a team that they just haven't really done a great job of putting anybody away. They're a team that really doesn't put their foot to the pedal when they're up. And Vermont's the exact kind of team that could punish UK for doing that. And right now it's 5-6. So let's see if anything changes here. Nick Richards missing the layup, looking like freshman year Nick Richards. Neutral site bingo there. And Vermont's going to take the lead 7-6 on the Cats.
7-6.
As I have a near heart attack over here. Not what you want to see if you're a Cats fan, but this is a team that notoriously starts slow and is a second half team. Ashton Hagen's back for the Cats after the late season personal absence. Emmanuel Quickly out for 3. Got it. That's Emmanuel Quickly's shot right there. And the one thing that for UK is going to be interesting going into the season is with Johnny Juzang transferring out, it's going to be interesting to see if they're looking at the Hardy player, Jalen Hardy's upperclassman brother at UNLV, who is a coveted grad transfer, or if that means Emmanuel Quickly or Ashton Hagans will come back. Either way, Johnny Juzang transferring may mean one of those things, or it might mean that Dante Allen's better than advertised. And this is the same guy that averaged nearly 40 points a game in high school and was Mr. Basketball in the state of Kentucky. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Juzang news means. But if you're a UK fan, you'd really love to see them add some front court depth. Rumor is that Greg Brown's dad spoke to Coach Cal yesterday. It's been reported by KSR. What that means, nobody knows. If I had to guess, it might just be adding drama to the recruitment, since I'm very convinced that Greg Brown is a Texas lock, with Shaka coming back, which all but solidified him going to the Longhorns. But anything can happen at this point. Paulo Banchero could reclass. Nobody knows just yet. And as our eloquent co-host Griffin Libbs put, classic Cal sells the kids snake oil and then runs them off. That hurts. But in this case, it's not the most untrue thing with Johnny Juzang transferring out as I've ever heard. UK leads 9-7 right now, 4:13 left to go in the first. And HP, I'd love to hear your take on this, but I think Emmanuel Quickly coming back would be more important to the Cats than Terrence Jones returning in 2012 for that national title run, and even Willie Cauley-Stein and the Harrison twins coming back for the 2015 team. Nick Richards blocked on the dunk. Oh, Nick Richards having a rough start to this game so far. HP, where would you put Emmanuel Quickly returning to the Cats as Nate Sestina checks into the game on most valuable returns in the Cal era?
I will make this point till the end of time. The Twins weren't that good, and Quickly's better than both of them, I think, pretty easily. So I think he's definitely more important than those two. Terrence Jones, I think that one is probably a better comparison for me, just because Terrence Jones did come back to a UK team that basically only played 6 guys for the entirety of the year, and he was a pretty instrumental part of that Kentucky team being as good as they were. While they were a dominant, truly great team in college basketball that year, they did really have, of those 6 guys, they all had to contribute a pretty heavy amount during that season. Even Darius Miller, the 6th man off the bench, but relatively, not a very heralded player coming into the year. They wouldn't have won the national championship without him. So,
right, you are HP. HP, I tend to not disagree entirely as Nate Sestina gets fouled there. It's not that I disagree with the assessment on the Harrison twins. You're either they were underrated or overrated fan or person, but I think the Harrison twins provided a lot of valuable experience. You can talk all you want about Aaron Harrison's clutch heroics in the 2014 tournament, but Andrew Harrison was a guy that was a floor general. He didn't do anything exceptionally well. He wasn't a master of anything, but a jack of all trades, really, and his shooting really got better down the stretch. So for me, the Harrison twins...
He also, Ulis and Booker, as a whole, those guys, they were better than the Twins that year. I think they really should have gotten the majority of the minutes Ulis and Booker should have.
As Vermont calls a timeout. Here's the thing that people fail to understand. Booker did not shoot well outside of a month stretch where he shot I think a little over 50% for 3. Outside of that, he was getting abused in the Wisconsin game by Sam Decker. And why Sam Decker or Devin Booker was guarding Sam Decker, it was not a good adjustment from Coach Cal. Ulis, you can definitely make that argument. Ulis, I think, is one of the most underrated players to ever go through Kentucky, as Juzang gets the steal there. Honestly, one of my top 5 favorite players, not just in the Calipari era, but in UK history, is Johnny Juzang. Goes up with the layup to put the Cats up 13-7. But the Harrison twins will always be up there for me. But as I do agree with the Terrence Jones one, it was the first time outside of Patrick Patterson, really, and that team ended in an Elite 8 run that I thought was cut short. It's the first time that we've seen an upperclassman come back and really set Kentucky just from a bunch of freshmen to a team with veterans. And we're not even talking about Deron Lamb either on that team. Deron Lamb is, in my opinion, the best shooter to ever come through the Calipari era of Kentucky. That's what a lot of people will disagree on, but that's just my opinion. as Quickly gets the layup there to put the Cats up 15-7. People always want to throw out Tyler Hero. They want to throw out Devin Booker. Some even want to throw out Aaron Harrison, believe it or not, which I never understood. As
far as a pure shooter, I think Jamal Murray has to be in that conversation.
Jamal Murray's up there, but Jamal Murray from a volume standpoint, if you look at him compared to Deron Lamb, and Deron Lamb had the same, or you adjusted the numbers, Deron Lamb is still the better shooter. Deron Lamb's issue was that it's not that he was he was a very, very good shooter, but he was not amazing at creating his own shot. That's why you don't see him in the NBA today, because he was never able to separate and form his own shot. Jamal Murray, on the other hand, that's one of his strengths. As Jazane gets it ripped from Davis, Davis has nothing but daylight in the slam. Vermont cuts the lead to 4. But that's the one thing for me. It's like Deron Lamb, if we're talking in terms of spot-up shooters, I think is up there in UK lore with Tony Delk. And for anybody here that's listening that knows UK basketball, UK history, Tony Delk is one of, if not the greatest pure shooter in Kentucky history. So, anyway, going back to if Emmanuel Quickly came back. Reginald Delk and Jared Swapshire fighting Eric Bledsoe and DeMarcus Cousins was the signal of the rivalry officially being back in competitive terms, because
the best moment was actually I retract what I was about to say.
No. You got to go ahead. You got to go ahead now.
You got scorers table and was like trash talking fans in the stands, not the scorers table, but like in that general area.
What about
before that game? That people that went to that game have talked about that as just being like angry, and like people thought that there was like ever a college game that would have like an all-out brawl, like a Malice in the Palace style thing. That kind of had like that sort of energy to it, I guess, of like where you wondered if like people were gonna like end up getting hurt that game. And actually, I don't know, with how it started, you could almost say it could have went that way. But yeah, that was a very weird game in series history. That one, just to look back on, to be honest with you, just because of like that was when things kind of hit a boiling point, I guess, very early on. And really every game since that one hasn't had quite that much of an edge to it. But it is kind of an interesting one to look back. In a game with two teams that really were not on the same playing field that year, how big that game was at the time.
Yeah, I think one of the more underrated moments in the rivalry, and I can say this now that he's gone, is Rick Pitino flipping off the UK section, or the UK fans.
That was fantastic. That was 2015, I think.
14. That was the 2014 game. And I remember that one.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, that one of the Trey Lewis.
Was it 2014?
Trey Lewis and Damian Lee.
No.
For some reason, that's
2016. No, you're right. 2016. It was the 2016 game.
When Rick flipped the crowd off on the way out, and he said he was just throwing up the L.
Nate Sestina fouled on the play. Nate is a guy that
greatest road crowd he's ever seen.
Absolutely. Nate Sestina at the line. Cats up 18-11 now. Nate Sestina's been a guy this year that a lot of people had some pretty high expectations for, and certainly he hasn't underachieved. But he's a guy that's really played his role well off the bench. Not so much as a 3-and-D guy, but somebody that's been able to come off the bench and be able to play some productive minutes, especially with his outside touch. I really would have liked to have seen Nate in March. I think this UK tandem with him and Tyrese Maxey, even Keon Brooks, who was playing well at the end with Nick Richards getting the rebound there, were big-time players that really would have stepped up to March, and I would have loved to have seen that combo. But unfortunately we won't, because... thanks, coronavirus. Appreciate it. But in the meantime, UK is up 19-11 here with 9:20 to go in the half. And the contested Nick Richards with the rebound out to Emmanuel Quickly. Keon Brooks getting some valuable minutes as Griffin audibly groans, and I can hear him from my house here. Nick Richards out to Emmanuel Quickly. Quickly looking for the pick. Nick Richards coming up to the top. Takes it. Not known as a three-point threat. Gets it out to Nate Sestina. Looking for some space. He's going to get a pull-up jumper. And he hits it. Nate Sestina rattling it home. HP, there you go. Some TNS stats for you. The Wildcats shooting 42% from the field right now, and Vermont only shooting 28%. Deloney trying to take it to the key. Nothing. Emmanuel Quickly with the rebound. Emmanuel Quickly out to Keon Brooks. who I am being told by co-host Griffin Lives is a young Justin Smith, which honestly I get, but I'd say a more talented Justin Smith as Emmanuel quickly catches the pass. And Nick Richards with the putback dunk. That's what we've been accustomed to watching this year, HP, and it doesn't even make me remotely happy because we'll never get to see that again because I'm about 100% convinced that Nick Richards is going pro. HP, other than Emmanuel quickly, would you say there's any other UK players such as Nick Richards or Ashton Hagans that you think the Cats fans might see in white and blue again? Or would you say that they're pretty much gone at this point? As he groans, as an audible groan.
As far as who, are we talking about?
Well, let me ask you this.
We're talking about players on this year's team that might declare, might come back if they come back.
Let me rephrase this.
I feel like Nick Richards is going to go pro.
I do too. Let me rephrase that then. Do you think Ashton Hagans
is probably ready to go at this point? There was speculation he would go after his freshman year when he very clearly wasn't ready. I think he is ready though. At this point to go pro, Nick Richards is. Hagans is kind of a weird case, honestly, because we really didn't know what was going on with Hagans there at the end of the year. You never really know because he did have he did take a personal day, I know, for the game against Florida. As far as I know, Hagans, I could see him wanting to get out of town and move on to the NBA.
He will.
But that's more if there's like some kind of disagreement, I guess, between him and Cal at this point. I really don't know if that is or not, but I mean, it is something to consider.
I will.
You also have to consider as far as guards go.
Yes.
And if IQ comes back, you could probably almost see Ashton Hagans relegated to a bench role on UK.
Which
didn't quite improve as much as I thought he would this year, but I could see him kind of wanting to get a fresh start in the NBA. Obviously, I don't really know his situation top to bottom there, but
speaking of Hagans,
I think for the most part, I think what's kind of one of the reasons that Jazang transferred at this point was because, UK has such a good recruiting class, and I've criticized Cal quite a bit for this in recent years, in that Cal hasn't landed many elite recruits in recent years. He's landed very good recruits, but more or less, a lot of them have taken time to be able to get it going. Emmanuel quickly is one that had a huge jump between year one and year two and ended up better than the more hyped recruit of the two, which was Ashton Hagans, and he ended up better than Keldon Johnson was last year in his second year this year. So maybe that's a little bit of a moot point. He's not getting quite the epic, this guy would be playing in the NBA now if he didn't have to go to college, guys that have tended to go to Duke in recent years.
Oh boy.
But, you've got guys like BJ Boston coming in next year. So I
Terrence
think they've
Clark
definitely improved on recruiting this past year, even though they missed on some guys like Cade Cunningham, for example, who ended up going to play for his dad at Oklahoma State. So I kind of think Hagans could end up in the NBA draft, to be honest with you, just because of the fact that I could see his role kind of being decreased next year if he does come back. I do really wonder how many of these UK players will stick around. You'd have to say Tyrese is almost certainly will be in the draft this year.
Absolutely.
I feel like Nick Richards is a pretty strong candidate to be in the draft this year also. EJ Montgomery's not ready. Obviously, players go when they're not ready all the time. The contracts for second-round players are getting better.
Right.
And I think we should definitely make sure that is a sticking point here, that players have declared and have gotten drafted in the second round and gotten multi-year guaranteed contracts out of them. So you really never know, honestly. I feel like UK will probably have another Johnny Jazang type of team, what we might not have necessarily been expecting to start out with, but could make some sense kind of when we drill down and look a little bit deeper into the data and what they have coming in next year. All right, UK's up 20.
And a 3 by Tyrese Maxey as HP makes those valid points. I'm going to just end it here. I think there's more likely of a chance for Nick Richards to come back, and you touched on that because of the backcourt depth for UK. I think if you're a UK fan for elite prospects, BJ Boston was just named a first-team high school All-American. He's going to be a guy that I don't know if we've seen a player.
Is BJ Boston their top recruit?
Terrence Clark. Terrence Clark and
Terrence
BJ.
Clark.
Terrence Clark
Right.
is.
I knew BJ Boston was high up there too. But.
Well, I think it's kind of insane that Terrence Clark was a consensus top 5 recruit in the 2021 class, which I think is absolutely loaded. And now he's being relegated down to borderline top 10, and I think in ESPN's he's the 13th recruit in 2020 class, which I find bogus as Johnny Juzang commits the foul there. I think Terrence Clark could be better. I do think he'll be better than Brandon Boston, but Brandon Boston's a guy that I don't think UK has seen, or Calipari has coached a guy with that 6'6" long arm skill set. Reminds me a lot of Brandon Ingram, and for a lot of UK fans, that's not a great comparison because it's Duke, and there are certain holes of Boston's game that don't translate to that.
DeAndre Liggins, that was a long time ago, but that would be a good comparison, I think.
DeAndre was not a polished offensive player. It got better in the season that he started in 2011.
Definitely, as far as like offensive repertoire, like DeAndre Liggins was relatively limited at UK. Although he did end up making it to the NBA, so that's probably, when you look at Cal guards, though, that is true. You don't really think a lot of very tall and rangy, athletic, lengthy guards that are especially work well in the context of Calipari's very conservative, no gamble defense. So.
Absolutely, and I think with Nick, with there being a hole at center next year, this might be his chance to solidify himself as a lottery pick. Why not? You put yourself on draft boards this year, you're probably going to get drafted. Come back and possibly put yourselves as a lottery pick. Now, will I think that will happen?
See, I think someone like Nick Richards.
I don't think it'll happen.
Someone like Nick Richards, it would be better to go this year. In theory, he could improve his stock. I think he would be a first-round pick if he did go into the draft. I think at some point, you do have to kind of look at the idea of, okay, I can come back and improve at UK, or I can go and, be, even if you're a late first-round pick, you're still going to have a contract and make $1 million a season and develop with other of the best. I mean, obviously, Calipari's an elite basketball coach, just generally speaking, just in the same vein as someone like Rick Pitino was. But, you can go into the NBA and develop with some of the other best basketball coaches in the world right now and be paid for it. So, and you also have to look at if you go to the NBA that, I remember in the Ben Simmons, Donovan Mitchell Rookie of the Year debate, people dismissed this point that I made, especially you and Griffin, quite a bit.
Oh, boy.
But
Ashton
when
with the
you
steal.
look at being an NBA basketball player versus being a college basketball player, even if you're someone like Ben Simmons who just sits on the bench and doesn't practice and just practices for some period of time, that's still better than being a college basketball player at that point. Because with college basketball, you have 30 games, you have practices, but you also have school, you have other things. Obviously, there's plenty of distractions as a college student. Obviously, we were all college students, so obviously we know what that is like, and that there is not exactly conducive to being the best basketball player you can possibly be. Whereas in the NBA, you'll be able to work. You can work out as much as you want, practice as much as you want. Don't have to worry about class. You have 82 games, better competition to play against. So, I mean, as far as that, I kind of feel someone like Nick Richards should go to the draft, but obviously in the next couple of weeks we'll see how it shakes out.
I think the interesting part that a lot of Kentucky fans do not want to acknowledge of why Nick will not come back, I think if you want to make the case that Nick Richards should come back, it's a valid argument. Next year's draft class is very weak, and he could somehow slide into the top 15 if he has a good year. I think that's plausible.
See, is it weak, though, compared to this draft? I think this draft is clearly weaker than just about any draft I can remember.
I think next year's...
It feels like we say that once every 2 or 3 years.
This year's draft is very top-heavy, but I also think next year's draft is top-heavy, and those bottom-out prospects, even the second-rounders, I think there's a little bit of a fall-off. So, overall, I think there's a little bit of a disparity as he gets absolutely stuffed. But I think you can make an argument either way. The one point I was going to make, though, is that Nick Richards' girlfriend, who's one of the most decorated athletes in UK history for UK volleyball, is graduating this year. And they're very close, obviously. It's been documented by Nick and his girlfriend, his UK media, that relationship.
Oh, for God's sakes, we're at the point of we're talking about Nick Richards' girlfriend. Can we stop the tournament right now? Can we end this right now and quit the show with some dignity?
No, but no, I think at that point it could be plausible. I think the big X factor though for UK next year to get back is the guy that just gave it out to Maxey for the layup. There is EJ Montgomery. EJ made a very good amount of strides as Emmanuel quickly takes the jumper at the top of the key and knocks the three down. I think EJ made very significant strides throughout the year. He stopped trying to be this go-to scorer and was a great energy and rebounding guy. We know the scoring's there. His issue, as Damon goes up with the dunk, is the same exact issue as Nick Richards. It's a confidence issue. And there were rumors going around before the Johnny Juzang transfer that there was a potential UK player that Gonzaga might get, and it's pretty much been reported now that it's Juzang with UK with 10 seconds left on the shot clock and a 43-19 dominating lead. But Maxey with the pull-up got it. But EJ's a guy next year I can see coming in and being like Nick Richards. Honestly, I really, really can, just because of how well he was playing at the end of the year. Will he play the 4? I don't know. He could play the 5. They might move Keon Brooks here to the 4. It's going to be interesting if Cal finally goes small this year, if they can't bring in Greg Brown, Paulo Banchero, or even another grad transfer. The grad transfer market this year for centers, other than the center from Quinnipiac, who led the entire country in rebounds, is pretty small. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do this, or Calipari does this.
Well, to be fair, grad transfers tend to flow upward in college basketball from the mid majors and low majors upward. You know, I feel like saying that the center market is not great this year
kind of redundant.
Is a bit disingenuous, because really the center market is rarely gonna be standout. You know, you will get your carry backers, but also, generally speaking, if you need a center, I would certainly not recommend relying on grad transfers
to
fill that need, just because, you know, so many teams in college basketball, they've got like one center or no centers. And
right.
U of L and IU a lot of times have 2 on the roster. So
they missed it. No, I agree, but for UK, they're not going to run the offense through, you know, EJ. I don't think it'd be wise to do that with Terrence Clark, BJ Boston coming in. Or even Emmanuel quickly coming back. But if there's ever been an indicator of a successful Calipari team, it's been a post presence. Last year, not this year, but the 2018-2019 team with P.J. Washington, the 38-1 team with Willie Cauley-Stein, that I still, even though we voted, or you guys voted him as overrated, I think from a college sense, his importance on the game was just absolutely monstrous, even outside of scoring. You look at the 2010 team, nobody gives Patrick Patterson enough credit for his role. So I think with a successful Calipari team, if you want to look at a team that didn't have a post presence really, that only relied on guards, look no closer than the 2016 team with Jamal Murray and Tyler Ulis. Great talent up in the backcourt with the and one layup foul on Tyrese Maxey by Ben Shingu, but they need a post presence to help spread the floor. So it'll be interesting to see if that's Greg Brown, if that's Paulo Banchero, or if it's the grad transfer market. And there's another guy, Moussa Cisse? Is that his name? The guy, Moussa Cisse, the 2021 recruit who's...
no idea.
He's looking like a Memphis lean, but anything can happen at this point, especially with Memphis not making the tournament, as UK leads 47-22. But... I don't know. This is honestly one of my favorite times of the year. It's also one of the most bittersweet times of the year because UK hasn't won since 2012. But EJ getting tacked on with the foul there. But I don't know. It very well. I think it's gonna be interesting. I think I can see Louisville making some additions. I can see UK making some pretty good additions. IU is gonna be, I think, a pretty solid team next year with the addition of Christian Lander, he hasn't officially reclassified yet, but you got to think he will be. So I think for our local teams next year, that's going to be a heck of a group there, and I really do mean that. UK will probably be a top 3 preseason team if they can make another addition. You could argue today that they'd be a top 5 team, even if Emmanuel quickly doesn't come back. But yeah, I think this is an exciting time to be in my opinion, a UK fan, especially as they're up 47-24 is Maxey, the top of the shot clock. Richards gets the rebound, gets it out to the big guy, Montgomery, who can't get it to go. Ben Shungu up with the fast break out to Smith. Smith out to Duncan. Hagen's out to Maxey, who is, HB, you're 100% when you say, as Ben Shangu hits the three trying to get Vermont back into this. There is no situation on earth, even with the lack of the workouts being excluded, that Tyrese Maxey comes back. There's no, and it sucks because I think he's one of the best big-time players that UK has had in the Calipari era. And I think you can honestly make a case for top three because I have never seen a guy show up more consistently for big games, whether it was the Michigan State game, it was the SEC road games, not to harp on it, but the U of L game even. So it'll be, or the Florida game too. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. As UK leads the Catamounts by 20 points with 7:19 left to go in the third. And the drive to the cup, Hagen's with the rebound. Good defense by E.J. Montgomery. Out to Emmanuel quickly in the corner. Out to E.J. The contested layup, and he's going to hit it. 49-27 UK. HP, do we have any sponsor that we want to plug? No, we do not. As he gives me a disapproving head nod. Manuel quickly out to Nick Richards. Nick Richards with the contested layup. Puts the Cats up 51-27. Shungu, my apologies. Out the wing. Kentucky with a dominating performance today. If you're a UK fan, you have to be absolutely thrilled with what's going on right now. As my commentator HP goes to the concession stand to get one small thing of popcorn. And then again with this game, I don't know how you could get a thing of popcorn because the entertainment value has been pretty low. I feel like I'm watching Utah State and Iowa all over again. As Emmanuel quickly catches out the wing out to Nick Richards. Nick Richards has been able to improve on that jump shot, which he's been able to utilize this year to help him in the post, as Tyrese Maxey throws it away with 3.8 left on the shot clock, trying to hit EJ there with the swing pass, and he can't get it. Still, 51-27 Cats, with 5:57 left to go in the third. Shungu trying to get some help here at the top of the key. Maxey hounding him. He gets a little bit of separation with the pull-up jumper. Got it. 29-51 Kentucky. Emmanuel quickly with 10 points for the Cats. Sestina out the top of the key. Nate Sestina trying to find something. Tyrese Maxey with the jumper. That's his mid-range, and he misses it. Shungu been by far the best player for Vermont today as he gets the foul here. Anthony Lamb been shut down with 0 points and only 6 or 7 rebounds, if I'm correct. Shungu with 13 points tonight. Keep it at 13. Anthony Lamb been one of the most productive players for Vermont in its school's history. Possibly a guy you could be hearing come, well, whenever this draft happens. Very, very productive guy that will probably be able to find him some meaningful minutes in the NBA if he can just find out or carve out a role. Possibly in San Antonio with Popovich, if I had to guess, because Coach Pop's one of the best of all time and gets the best out of his players. As Nate Sestina hits the hook shot right there. Clearly not the Griffin Libbs baby hook, but something like it. An homage, if you will. Out to Maxey. Maxey gets it out to Quickly. Quickly at the top of the key, trying to find some space, trying to find an opening. Quickly back out to Maxey. Keon Brooks with the pick on the right. Maxey, ISO, trying to get to the cup. Half spin move with the layup. Got it. Tyrese Maxey puts the Cats up 55-30 with 4:10 to go in the third. Shungu trying to get some help from his teammates here. It's been a one-man show for the Catamounts today. Out to Smith. Smith out to Patella. Patella averages around 17 minutes per game. They needed that one, and they cannot get it to go. Keon Brooks with the rebound. Brooks out to Nate Sestina. Trying to ride the hot hand here. They're going to get to Nick Richards. Nick misses the layup, but Sestina's there to clean it up. And Richards is going to wisely bring it back out. Maxey at the top of the key. Quickly, out at the wing. He's going to get the pick from Nate on the right side. He's going to take the pull-up jumper. In and out. Rebound by Lamb. Deloney. Guarded by Nick Richards. Out to Shungu. Shungu's got a little bit of space. He's going to take. And stolen by Nate Sestina. Nate leading the fast break. Nate running point, which, God, I'd never want to see in my life ever again. But he could prove me wrong, and he's not going to, but he's going to get his own rebound out to Keon Brooks for a three. Got it! Keon Brooks with a three. Keon Brooks is a guy that not really known for his three prowess as Vermont takes a timeout, but really by the end of the year was able to find a stroke, especially and most notably against Florida in that 18-point comeback against the Gators. But with another year, Keon could be one of the most valuable players for Kentucky next year if he chooses to stay, and if you don't believe the hype that he'll be transferring. As my partner HP's back on the call. But very valuable player. If he can expand his game to include that consistently, UK could be an even more dangerous team than they possibly could be next year with all of these new additions. HP has the popcorn and concessions.
Not terrible. Went to go grab a nice Coke, and lines were long, unfortunately, here at Prairie View A&M. This is one of the biggest games this court's ever seen, so it was a long line.
Were you cursed out by one angry LSU fan?
Where's Prairie View A&M, by the way? Like, where is the school at? I have no idea.
You know, I'm going to sound dumb here, and I'm going to say North Carolina. But
well, let's take a look.
I got it. How much, I'm not saying we're putting money on this. It's going to be Texas, isn't it? It's Texas. Texas is back! Texas is not back.
And back.
I really want to know.
What is the score? Because per usual, I can't see what's going on.
I apologize, HP. It is 61-30 Cats with 12:15 left to go in the game. As Anthony Lamb catches a rebound behind his back, passes out to DeMuth with nothing but lane and the layup. 61-32 Cats over the Catamounts in this 4-13 matchup. Maxey's going to drive with the floater layup, and he got it. 15 points for Tyrese Maxey. Can't say I'm surprised. It's a tournament game, and the guy has shown up once again. Out to Duncan. And Duncan's going to be fouled by Griffin Lynch quoted Junior Justin Smith. Or Justin Smith Jr., since we're referring to NCAA calls. DeMuth out to Davis. Davis with the up and under. Green Giant with the layup. To be fair, we can't actually call them Green Giant with the green unis. Then again, they looked more like lumberjacks with the yellow shoes. Also, can I point out that Nick Richards' hair, he does not have a Nerlens Noel flat top like he does in this game. As he goes up with the layup.
Yeah, not quite. A little bit off there on that one. Goodness, it feels like all of these games have been blowouts for the most part. Besides the good ones that Hutch and Huber happen to get, our games are only decided by a nice, cool 35 points every time.
See, you say that, and then watch Prairie View take Kansas to the limit, which would be funny. Not that I want it to happen, but it would be pretty funny. Johnny Jazang out at the top of the key. Cats with 15 left on the shot clock, 40 seconds left in the third quarter. Tyrese Maxey going to get another layup, and he's going to miss this one. Beckett with the rebound. Beckett trying to pace the offense here. Trying to get something up-tempo going. They're going to get it out to Duncan, who fakes the shot. Beckett near the timeline with 23 seconds. Beckett with the contested layup. No good. Rebound, Keon Brooks. UK is going to get the final shot if they want it. Keon out to Maxey. Maxey's going to take the three. No good. Vermont's going to have last possession here in this quarter. Beckett gets to the cup. Nobody contesting him with the layup. 5.4 to go. UK can get one final shot off here. As Sestina gets it out to Maxey. Maxey with 2 seconds left. He's going to take a pull-up jumper. No good. UK, though, up 66 to 36 at the end of the third. HP, did you expect this big of a blowout?
Actually a little bit, honestly, because every game we've commentated has been an absolute, just enormous blowout so far.
Well, let's go through the checklist.
I think it is hilarious to me that like most of these games have been like 4-13s and 2-15s, but the biggest blowout of them all was like the 8-seed Arizona beating LSU by a cool 44 points. I wonder what the biggest blowouts in NCAA history are. I want to say Villanova beat Oklahoma by 45 in 2016, but that one I do not remember, so I'll have to look that up really quick.
Let me tell you how much of a blowout Calipari feels this is, and I can guarantee all the UK fans listening that this would never happen in a game, let alone a tournament game, as the 3 by Vermont cuts it down to 27. E.J. Montgomery is running the point. Brendan Canada is in the game. So is Xander Payne is also in the game, as is Riley Welch and Dante Allen, who hasn't played a minute for the Cats all year as he recovered from a torn ACL and a broken collarbone. And that's a guy that I think a lot of UK fans get excited about. There's a lot of comparisons to his game to former UK greats, and the one that I think is the most interesting is Derek Anderson. So very interesting. He's active. So if Calipari needed to play Allen at any point this year, Allen probably could have played, but for his safety, possibly he was a redshirt candidate, and Calipari didn't want to exploit it. But speaking of exploitation there, E.J. Montgomery exploits the Vermont defense with the dunk. As we look down low, Vermont shooting 31% on the field, and UK a cool, crisp 45%. As Davis...
Here, going back to Arizona, this would be, in the history of the NCAA tournament, this would be the second biggest, it would be the third big, it would be tied for the second biggest blowout in the history of the tournament. 44 points tied with Villanova over Oklahoma in the Final Four in 2016. The only bigger blowout in history than the Arizona LSU game we just witnessed was Loyola Chicago over Tennessee Tech in 1963, a 69 point blowout for whatever this Loyola Chicago mascot is, because we all forgot about him after what happened 2 years ago.
Absolutely. UK dominating Vermont right now, 70-39. It'll be interesting. The Cats, with this win, I'm trying to think who they would get in the 5. They would get correct? Would it be BYU HB as the 5?
I don't know. I haven't looked at this bracket near enough, so I have no comment.
Great commentary from color commentator and former Pulitzer Prize winning commentator HP. That's right. He won a Pulitzer Prize as a sports journalist. Let's see. What would it be? As Vermont cuts the lead down to a cool 28 points.
We've gotten some real riveting games here to call. Hutch and Huber have gotten every single good game in this tournament. Everyone else just gotten the scraps.
Very true, unfortunately. No dice. EJ with the layup, and it's going to go. 72-42. The Cats. If only this game was being played in Catlanta. That'd be great. It might be. I'm trying to check the bracket. UK, if they win this game, would get Butler, the winner of Butler and Liberty, which is a game I think UK could potentially pull off, even though Butler's Kamar Baldwin, as Jared would say, is one of the best players in the nation. But besides that, you imagine Jared on a Butler call? Man, Kamar Baldwin, as Brendan Canada gets his first and probably only points in his UK career, Jared on the Kamar Baldwin call. Man, Kamar Baldwin run rings around Ashton Hagens. Come on. Dogs by 20. To be fair, though, Kamar Baldwin is a heck of a player in his own right. But it'd be interesting to see if Butler can take down Liberty, who's seemingly perennially, as E.J. Montgomery goes up with the massive dunk, is perennially an upset candidate. It seems like every year in a 12-5 matchup, which we have them here with Butler.
Yeah, but so they get 5 seeds. Feels like just about every year.
Yeah. Well, they were in Duke's bracket last year.
5 seeds never won the tournament, correct? I think that's true.
Is that true? I think it's crazy.
I don't know. I feel like that's true, though. We're talking about, like, borderline. I don't know. We're digressing here because we're calling yet another blowout.
I do want to point out, though, that whoever created John Calipari has him in a tan suit. I cannot recall the last time I saw John Calipari in a tan suit. It honestly might even be a cream suit. I don't know. I also like to point out that in no circumstances would Dante Allen, Xander Payne, Brendan Cannon, and Riley Welch ever be in the game, even with 4.5 to go. It would not happen. There's a greater chance that I would probably hit a winner on somebody within the top 500 ATP. And guess what, folks? That's not likely at all. It's non-existent. Virtually zero. UK is up 76-50 with 4:24 to go.
No 5 seed has ever won the tournament, just for the people at home.
That's crazy. That's actually a crazy stat. A 7 seed has won it.
That is a weird stat, honestly, because 6 seeds have won. UConn was the first 7 seed to win, and an 8 seed has also won the championship. That was 1985 Villanova.
Dante Allen with the 3.
Yeah, that's really weird, honestly, because every other seed in here's won the championship, up to 8, but God, that's really weird.
Ooh, with the contested layup by Duncan. Yeah, I mean, who'd you say? Villanova was the 8 seed that won?
Yes, that's the only 8 seed. UConn was the only 7 seed. The Danny and the Miracles Kansas team was the one of 2 6 seeds, and the I believe that was the only 6 seed was the Danny and the Miracles Kansas team. No 5 seeds. Arizona the only 4 seed to ever win. 3 seeds, only 4 3 seeds have ever won, which was Michigan. That was the last team to make the final in 2018. I believe UConn in 2011, I think, was the most recent 3 seed, but I would have to check me on that. 2 seeds have won plenty of tournaments, obviously. 1 seeds have been in 26 national championships all time. Wow, 18 champions in the NCAA tournament's history have been 1 seeds. That's very interesting. I don't know. The NCAA tournament feels almost as mathematical as it is much of a storyline-driven thing, to be honest with you. It's very interesting to look at these things about how the brackets fall and what these things have meant in the past for tournament teams. Like picking a bracket is it's quite a calculation now, I guess.
Well, calculated catastrophe and an absolute abomination of no regard for human life right there by E.J. Montgomery with the poster. Oh, when he picks up the foul on the other side. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Okay, it is hilarious to me so far that a bunch of New Mexico State people and players, and even some people in the athletic director are liking and retweeting.
Did they? Oh my gosh, they did.
This upset tweet. It's hilarious, honestly. I wish all the other tweets were like that, but shout out to New Mexico State for enjoying our diet NCAA tournament we're doing here.
Wow, 21 likes. Also, Dante Allen hit a 3 earlier that we didn't.
21 likes. That's baby steps for us, at least. It's baby steps. What is the score here?
It is 82 to 54.
I can barely tell which team has the ball.
Well, 82-54 right now with 2:15 to go for the Cats.
Is this game almost over?
It is. HP, did you say Arizona won it as a 4?
Yes, that
in
was
97?
The 1997 game where Derek Anderson sat out.
I think one of the more interesting theories that we've talked about on the show, at least on our What Ifs episode, if you haven't checked that out, check that out on our Podbean page. Just type in the neutral site on our Twitter. We have the link there for Podbean. I think one of the more interesting what-ifs in Kentucky history is what happens if that team wins the 97 title against Zona. Does Rick Pitino leave? Do they three-peat? How many people leave in the 97 draft? It's an interesting one. It's a very interesting theory. Perhaps, I don't know. I don't know if they three-peat. I don't think they do if they win, but perhaps Rick Pitino doesn't leave after the 97 title game. So, very interesting, though. I didn't know Arizona was a 4 seed in that. But Miles Simon, Mike Bibby on that team were absolutely dominant in their college careers, and Mike Bibby ended up having a very productive NBA career as a result, especially with Sacramento. So, as the Cats are up 82-56 with 1:33 to go, Riley Welch at point, also something I did not think I'd ever say in a tournament game. I still can't believe the New Mexico State AD retweeted. Was it the AD? It's the...
I don't think that was the AD. It was the HR coordinator in the athletic department, though, but it's...
athletics.
It's a good start. I guess.
Yeah, the athletics HR coordinator. All right, not too shabby. Oh, and then we had another guy from New Mexico State like it. This guy's name is Tennessee Owens. All right, not bad. Not bad, Tennessee Owens. As Xander Payne brings out the Riley Welch to hopefully come a little bit closer to the end of this game. Kentucky pressing on the boards as Riley Welch gets a layup. Let's go, Riley Welch with the layup. There we go. All 2 of our UK fans in this chat are hyped. Riley Welch with the bucket. And Patella trying to drive at the back. Wow, behind the back to Beckett. Beckett trying to use the screen to get something opening. He gets a pull-up jumper, no good. Jonathan Williams, though, with the putback. Hey, there you go, Vermont. And it looks like that's going to close the game as Nate Sestina's running the point. Once again, something I just don't care to see. As that one Vermont fan in the bottom corner trying to rally his team from 26 with 5 to go. They're going to dribble it out. Kentucky goes on to the round of 32, where they'll take on the winner of Butler and Liberty. That's a lot of blue right there. That's a sea of blue. Looking at the box score, unshockingly, Tyrese Maxey, E.J. Montgomery, Nate Sestina paced the Cats with 15. Emmanuel Quickly with 10 points. Looking on the other side, Ryan Davis with 7. Ben Shungu, though, with 14 points. Did not see him in at the end of the game. Everett Duncan with 10. Anthony Lamb, unfortunately for the Catamounts, 0 points. 10 rebounds, though. By far their best player. HP, before we end this broadcast, or anything you'd like to say to the folks at home? He's thinking about it. And he says no. All right. Well, folks, if you enjoyed this broadcast, check us out on our Twitter page, @NeutralSiteShow. You can find us on YouTube, where you've gotten this link at the Neutral Site. We also have a Podbean where we upload our recorded episodes outside of this. You can check out some of our other stuff, including the What If episode that was mentioned earlier. We will have another game coming up probably in the next 15 to 20 minutes. It'll be Kansas versus Prairie View A&M in a 1-16 matchup. Kansas looking to assert their dominance that they were able to exhibit the entire season over their regular season opponents. So until then, be sure to check us out for the next episode for the Kansas Prairie View and AM. Thanks for tuning in. And until then, stay neutral. Stay safe, folks, and we'll be seeing you soon.